Everybody, welcome to Stack Your Points. Thanks for watching and listening. And this is the Friday Q&A segment. So your questions, we answer them, sometimes up to an hour, sometimes it creates its own episode in and of itself. So if you have questions, always feel free to drop them on the YouTube channel or email us at stackyourpoints@gmail.com. But we hope you enjoy this week's Q&A session. Thanks for watching and listening. Welcome to another episode of Stack Your Points. As always, I'm Matt Clausen from the Matt Clausen YouTube channel, joined by RJ from Do You Take Cards. RJ, how are you this evening?
I'm doing very well. We have a lot of questions today. We're doing a special Q&A episode, and compiling those questions and doing the pre-show about all questions has been a journey. So I hope our listeners understand the sacrifice we're making by answering just a boatload of questions. It takes a mental toll, so we're doing this for your benefit. I hope everybody enjoys it.
And we're also joined by Tariq from Rick's Rewards. Tariq, how are you today?
I am good. I know it is Monday when we do our recording, but this video is going to come out on a Wednesday. So let me be the first to say Happy New Year to all of our beautiful viewers and listeners.
Absolutely. Happy New Year, one and all. Lonnie is once again on assignment because holidays, give the man a break. And so with that in mind, there are a few Lonnie-specific questions that are still floating in the ether. Lonnie's not here to answer those questions, but we will try and get those to be the first questions of the new year, of the first episode of the new year. Pause. The second episode of the new year. So once Lonnie returns, we will be sure to get those questions in. So we have a backlog of questions. It is a Q&A show today. We are skipping over back to basics. We are skipping over our topics and news of the week, which is great. So our first question comes from a great friend of the show, Keith S., and these are going to be in no particular order. So my co-hosts are just going to have to live with my chaos. The first question does come from Keith S., who asks, will the Citi Strata be the new food card for 2025? Add in the gas and EV charging categories and the possibility of AA as a new transfer partner from the Citi and AA deal a few weeks ago. Chase and Wells do not want to play in the grocery category. American Express increased the gold card to a $325 annual fee, and all of their credits feel like a chore. And the Savor card feels like a lost soul because Capital One makes it so difficult to get their bifecta. So, RJ, Citi Strata Premier, is it the new food card for 2025?
If you like Citi, sure. If you don't like Citi, no. Like I hate to be so direct, but it depends on if you value Citi points. If you don't value Citi points, this card is useless to you. If you're okay with Citi points, if Citi is an issuer you want to get into, then it's a great card. I would push back that all of the gold credits are a chore. They might be to Keith, and I respect that, but they're not particularly to me. I use the ones I use, I don't use the ones I don't use, and I move on with my day. That's just how I feel about the card because I use the food category pretty heavily. So for me, do I love that it's 325? No, but the gold card is great for me, at least currently. And I have no desire to go into Citi. So for me, this wouldn't work, right? But for other people, if you're into Citi, this is a great option as a food card. So as I'm going to say a lot for the next year, it depends on which ecosystem you want to be in and how you value the points in that ecosystem.
Absolutely. Tariq, your thoughts here. Citi Strata is the new food card for 2025.
I mean, for the most part, I align with RJ on that. But regarding the gold card, people talk about the credits or chore. It's an expensive card. But you know what? American Express did it because it still works for them. I don't, we've seen a few videos about, oh, I'm going to cancel the Amex Gold. But realistically, I'm sure they got way more people to apply for the gold card than they did people canceling or downgrading the gold card. For the most part, if you're in the points and miles and you want a points card that's going to get you back on dining out and groceries at the same time, it's the gold card. Other than that, the Savor, and you just got to jump through the hoops for Capital One. But aside from that, Chase, whenever the Freedom decide the quarter for grocery comes up on the Freedom card, like case in point this quarter for January through March. But it's either you deal with it or grocery isn't a strict points earning category for you. I know for me, once March is over and we're going to Q2, I'm going to switch to, I think, my Blue Cash Preferred for my grocery card, and I'll just earn a bunch of cash back for groceries and let that cash back funnel other things that points can't pay for. So if you like Citi, sure, the Strata Premier is going to be great. But even then, you can still throw in the custom cash if you want to go more points. So it's good for a simple setup if you like Citi, but even then, if you can get complicated in the weeds, it may not even be the best food card for Citi.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot is being banked on the possibility of Citi and American Airlines with American Airlines potentially becoming transfer partners with Citi. I um I am steadfast in thinking that that possibility, if it is a possibility, we're not going to hear about it until 2026 at the earliest. So if you're going to go out and get the Strata Premier in anticipation of this, um, Strata Premier is a good card. Citi's got good transfer partners. Like, as much as I rag on Citi, like, they do have spots of value in airlines. They do have choice at 1 to 2. They do have, interesting uses for their points. I don't think, if you're betting on AA being American Airlines being a transfer partner, I don't think you should be going after the Strata Elite, the Strata Preferred Strata Premier as a food card in 2025, banking on American Airlines. Now, if the card fits your spend, great. 3 times points on gas in EV charging, 3 times points on groceries, 3 times points on dining. Very solid card. Add a custom cash to get an additional 2 points on your first $500 in spend in either dining or groceries, whichever you do more of. That's fine. It doesn't necessarily help if you do a lot of your grocery spend at warehouses or Target or Walmart supercenters. That just is what it is. But if you're banking on AA, I don't think you should. Then again, if the card fits your spend, it's a very solid a very solid food card. 3 times thank you points can be transferred out to a number of airlines, getting you a good amount of coverage that you would get at 4 times MR points. If you feel that the gold card is a chore, that's fine. If you feel that getting the Capital One bifecta is too hard, again, completely understandable. There's a lot of stories about that being an issue. So get the card that makes the most sense for you. If that's the Strata Premier, great. If it's not the Strata Premier, hey, that is what it is. The other thing to take into account is, wait until Strata Elite launches and see what Strata Elite offers you as well. Because if there's no one Strata rule, you could have the Strata Premier be your like food and everything card, and the Strata Elite could become, that extra 2% on dining, that extra whatever on travel. And then you're still going to build a massive points and not have to worry about AA until that becomes official, which again, Citi had 37 years to lock them down as a transfer partner, and they've had the same deal on the table 11 years ago. Both times they've punted. I don't trust Citi to get this right.
The biggest problem was, I think it was 2020, 2021, when Citi had had American Airlines as a temporary transfer partner for like a few months. And then I guess it had people banking on the permanent transfer partner. But as of the day of this recording, and probably as of January 1st, it ain't going to be a transfer partner, and we're probably not going to hear anything from it. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend speculative account opening card openings for that reason. But hey, if the card works for you, go for it.
Just don't use mobile wallet.
Yeah, Citi does not like 21st century technology. I'm surprised that they have flat cards, honestly. I think they would much rather you use the plate and the paper and the ka-chunk, ka-chunk.
Yeah, they still have embossed debit cards and they're horrible.
I mean, they're not the only bank that starts with C with embossed cards.
Hey, they don't, well, at least on the personal side, they don't do them anymore. Can't speak on the business cards.
I am speaking on the business cards. So that'll do that question. Thanks, Keith. I'm sure we've got a couple more coming up from you. So we're going to actually switch gears and take a question from a first-time asker. This question comes from Sam, and Sam asks, Matt talks a lot about ghost cards or discontinued cards. If you could bring a card back from the dead that was killed more than a year ago, so the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve cannot be used for this particular question, which card would you bring back? RJ, we're going to start with you again.
So I'm going with an oddball choice. Not a card I would necessarily get, but a card that I think would be interesting in the market, and I would like more interesting cards in the market. And that is the United Travel Bank card. So this card was 2% for the travel bank for every dollar on airline tickets purchased with United, and then 1.5 for the travel bank on every dollar spent on anything else. So you could use it as a cashback card. You could use it as sort of a catch-all. And if you're somebody who likes United and uses their travel bank, it's not a bad option. Now, is it the best card? No. This was from what, 2020? So things have changed quite a lot since then. But I do think having more interesting cards in the market is a good one, and this is a card that could, if it was refreshed, be interesting. So that's my choice.
Interesting. Now I know you looked at the earning capability of the card. If that card had only 12 months of travel bank, that would suck. But if it had the 5 years of travel bank, that would actually be really, really nice because you could save up for a nice little trip from here over time.
So I'm on the US credit card guide site. That's where I did my research, and it does not say. It does say there's no foreign transaction fees, no annual fee, and 25% back as a statement credit on food and beverage purchases on United operated flights, which is pretty nice. Um,
All that
but
for no
yeah,
annual fee. That's nice.
yeah. Um, there's no free check bag, priority boarding, other things, but for no annual fee card, I don't think anybody would expect that. Um, and it does, I love this. One question we have is, does it get the 25% bonus on MPX? Which I love that that's a question still unanswered because there is no card to answer it anymore. But yeah, there's not a ton of information, unfortunately. Um, but I do think this is one of those cards that if it was refreshed, I think it would be very popular.
Definitely sounds it. We'll go to Tariq in just a moment. I was going to bring up my card. I'm going absolutely buck wild with this one, and in my research, I was on the same website that RJ just mentioned. I stumbled across the Merrill Lynch Octave card. This card had a $950 annual fee. Suck it, American Express. Um, this card produced 2.5 points per dollar on all purchases, had a $350 travel credit, and or you could use that travel credit to buy Sky Club executive access for the year. So you could either, take $350 off or get Sky Club executive access. And then you've got like this net annual fee of $600. You could cash out on your first like $500 back. You could cash out at 2 cents per point from Merrill Lynch's travel portal for a $500 flight. So you would only need to use 25,000 points to get a $500 ticket. And there was no like restriction on airlines or anything like that. So 2 cents per point guaranteed, and you'd still be earning 2.5 cents for every dollar spent after that if you did straight cash back, because it was valued at 1 cent per point. This is like a really interesting concept. Now, the 950 annual fee is crazy. It didn't look like it carried anything like a global entry or TSA pre-check credit. It didn't look like it had priority pass associated with it. So like if you were to bring this card back today, there were things you'd need to add to the card, obviously. And I'm not sure Bank of America would want to do this with from their Merrill Lynch division, but the fact that this card existed at all as like a $950 just slap it down 2.5% everything card, that could buy you into Delta Sky Club Executive, is just crazy to me. I would love to see a modern take on that sort of card. So the Merrill Lynch Octave card. And if you're someone who had this card, it was like invitation only type cards. So is what it is. But if you were someone who had this card or know someone who had this card, please let me know what it was like. Tariq, if you could bring back a discontinued card or ghost card, what would it be?
All right, so I'm not going to go as extreme as you, Matt. This one is going to be somewhat simple and honestly just like an easy hack, which I realized why this bank probably got rid of this card as soon as they could. That being the Bank of America Better Balance Rewards card, a no annual fee card where the rewards is you'll get $25 every quarter just for paying off your balance once a month. And it's one of those, you put like a $5 Amazon reload a month or something, pay it off, and then at the end of the quarter, they're giving you $25 plus an extra $5 if you have a Bank of America checking account or savings account, which you could open up a checking account, leave $500 in there, and then you'll earn $30 every quarter. So you could earn easily $120 a year for a card that you're probably putting $5 a month, so $60 a year. So that you would have probably spent or some other small purchase you would have spent anyway. So essentially a free $120 a year just for having a card and just making one payment on, which you can use that cash back for, whether it be to cover an annual fee and anything else or whatever you so be fit, put it towards your investing for all you care. But it's a free $120 for a credit card that I'm sure Bank of America was tired of just giving people money away every quarter. So it's a fun card. I wish I would have had it.
I'm sure there are certain credit hackers that Bank of America just were brought to their knees with the way that they utilize that card. $5 Amazon reload. No, sir. This was back in the day where you could get away with a penny. Back in my day.
Hey, I was going off of what the info on the archived old credit card site, and they said, hey, recommend probably doing the $5 reload so you're not triggering any issues with Bank of America. But I'm sure people got away with it for the Bilt 5 bananas, except this time you just need to buy a banana once a month and just pay the banana off.
There we go. Yeah, I can see why Bank of America would get rid of that card. Still up in the air as to why Chase I know why Chase got rid of the travel bank card, but that would be interesting. And that Octave card was just silly. But fun. $950. Oh, that $950 annual fee. Get ready, Amex Platinum card holders. Get ready. That's all I'll say there. So we'll move on to our next question, which it comes from Vincent, who asks, what are your credit card or travel wins for 2024? And Tariq, we'll have you start this one.
All right. So I think I mentioned it once with my topic on like best hotel stays. Travel win. I can't even remember the cents per point because honestly, I only think about it like at the time of booking. Chicago, staying at the Hyatt Regency in Chicago, 33rd floor. Didn't even have any status at the time, but got like a nice little what I felt was like a pseudo upgrade, and then just flying Southwest in points. It was beautiful. Other than that, I would say probably the Grand Hyatt downtown San Antonio as a staycation. Got the Grand Club access room. Got beautiful views. Was able to just kind of relax for a weekend after just some hectic stuff at work, and just felt refreshed. And I was able to really show my girlfriend the points and miles game and how we can use that to our advantage. So those would probably be my two. Other than that, oh, I actually just got back from spending time with my girlfriend's family using my IHG Premier Business. I used the fortnight free benefit, so I was in the city with my family, my girlfriend's family. It was in for 4 days. I was there from Christmas Eve up until the 28th and stayed there all on points. And I was able to do Christmas with them and got a lot of nice Christmas stuff and got to spend Christmas with them. So I have a few good travel ones.
Awesome. There you go. RJ, your credit card or travel wins for 2024.
I think probably the biggest win was probably Maine. I'm the family travel agent, as many of us are, and got that done, got a lot of points. She got Lorna Dunes because I'm a gold member, so I get a treat when I stay at Hilton's. So she got just so many Lorna Dunes. They were like, just take them. Like, here, you're a gold member. Here, take all of them. So yeah, it was. I did a lot of sort of smaller trips. Next year is when I'm doing a bunch of bigger trips. So that's going to have the more impressive wins. But I did more smaller trips this year than I had because of the points and miles game. I guess that might be part of it, is just more smaller trips, which is what I prefer. I am never going to say, guys, I'm going to the Seychelles. Like I got to go to the Seychelles for 200,000 total point. Like I am not that person. I would turn into the same color as Matt's onesie. So I will not be doing a trip like that, but I will take a bunch of smaller trips to New England and different places here. So we have that going on.
For the record, it is an oversized hoodie that is very comfortable and fleece lined, not a onesie.
I we have
It's a
not seen a full
onesie.
body shot, so I
It's
cannot confirm it's not a onesie.
until we get the full body shot, it's a onesie.
What's not helping me on this particular day is I'm wearing plaid pajama pants. So
It's a onesie.
If it
I've
wasn't a onesie before, you have made it a onesie.
It is a onesie.
I've inadvertently ruined myself on this one. Fantastic. All right. My biggest credit card wins or travel wins for 2024. Not necessarily travel. Like, we've done some trips. I would book initially for JetBlue flights by using points to get us into Blue and then paying cash to move up to even more space, because JetBlue doesn't allow you to just book even more space directly without being Mosaic 2. It's annoying. I don't have the time to go get Mosaic 2, so yeah, we're not going to call those wins. They're nice, but they're not wins. My biggest wins were picking up, applying for and being approved for 4 business cards over the course of 2024, and my player 2 reestablishing themselves in the game late in the year by applying for and getting approved for 2 cards themselves. So that's pretty nice. They just applied for the Citi Double Cash. Wasn't the card I necessarily would have picked, but it's the card they went for. 0% APR is what they're most happy about. Cool. I got them to apply for the JetBlue Plus card when the JetBlue Plus card had an 80,000 point welcome offer. So we're going to pick up that 80,000 point welcome offer, $1,000 in spend in the first 90 days of holding the card, pay the annual fee, get 80,000 points. Goes right into the pool. That helps because we were down to about 40,000 points in that pool. So 4 business cards for me, 2 cards for them. and then figuring out what their strategy for next year is going to be. Trying to see if Chase's stupid rules will come into play in any way, shape, or form. So there we go. All right, so we're gonna go to our next question, which comes from Double Animal Fries, who asks, "What is your trigger to get a new card?" They follow up with, "Is there a specific future redemption? The next step in a grand strategy, a really good welcome offer, incidental upcoming high spend, an opportunity to try out a new card or ecosystem. What is your trigger to get a new card?" RJ, what would be a trigger for you to get a new card?
So sort of all of the above, none of the above. It really depends. Um, right now, I have a pretty solid base. The only thing I really quote need end quote to pick up, which nobody needs anything, but like the only thing I want to pick up is a Hilton card because Hilton is my primary hotel. I really want the Surpass because that will fill in a few gaps in my system and let me get rid of a couple of things without having more gaps. Um, so some of it is just filling in the board, right? If I'm getting rid of the business platinum, business gold next year, okay, where are the where are gaps made from that? Where do I fill things in? So if I have, spend in X category, I'm covering it. So that's one thing. If there's a super stupid high offer and I have a bunch of spend coming up, I'll go there. Other than like reno for my house, there's not a ton of things that I have that are that concentrated. Um, so that's not necessarily on a normal year a huge driver. I am not the try out a random ecosystem in general. I do want to try out Wells Fargo, but that's more because of choice and things like that than anything else. Um, and less necessarily about trying out a new ecosystem and just sort of where my partners lie. Um, but yeah, I it sort of depends. Like I love a good zero APR offer. Like you give me a good 15-month zero APR offer and I'm happy. Which we'll go to a question later on. But yeah, I it sort of depends. There is no like singular trigger. It sort of is a culmination of life events, I'll say.
Definitely. I'll follow up with it will also depend. For me, if I have some incidental high spend coming up, first thought would be, is there a welcome offer that can satisfy this? Because, well, why not go after a welcome offer if you can? Now I'm not someone who prescribes to the Chase Ink train with the Ink business cards, but if a elevated offer on one of those cards is available and I can make the spend, and I'm on the hunt for for ultimate reward points, which I'm always on the hunt for ultimate reward points. I would definitely prioritize that as part of my get as many ultimate reward points as I can strategy. But I don't build out for future redemptions just because, like right now, my next big redemption is going to be a trip to Ireland in 2026. If I am light with my point spending in 2025, I already have a solid base of points for 2026 to start. It'll just be, getting the necessary points over time. If I'm not someone who's going to go out and try a new ecosystem. I've joined Chase in the last 2 years. I've had a well-established relationship with Wells Fargo. I've joined American Express in the last 2 years. I've joined Barclays in the last 2 years. I don't see the need to join Citi. I've had Capital One cards for a while, and I have the Apple card wherever the Apple card is going to go. I've got ecosystems. Like it's not like I'm going to sit here and go, boy, what is Credit One like? And go after a Credit One card. Or, boy, what is Bread Financial like? And go after the Bread Financial cards. Like that, the opportunity to try a new ecosystem is not particularly appealing to me. If I want to try a new card, it's got to be a new card in an ecosystem that I'm already operating in. If I decide tomorrow that JetBlue is for the birds and I don't want to deal with JetBlue anymore, I've got American, I've got Delta, I've got United that I can go grab the cards from. American would be a pain in the butt because now I've got to go the city route, or I just go grab a Barclays card that becomes a city card in time. But either way, I'm ending up with city. Um, so that portion of things isn't particularly good. A really good welcome offer is going to pique my interest, but if it's a really good offer in an ecosystem that I'm already in, great. If it's a really good offer in an ecosystem that I'm not particularly interested in joining, or it's like a card or like co-brand that I have minute interest in, where like portions of things would be interesting, but I can't square the circle, or I can't, finish the circle, then that's going to be harder for me. Like over the course of this year, the Avianca card could have made a certain amount of sense to go pick up and just like have that card and have the discount on the Avianca Life Miles Plus subscription. Not that Avianca is a airline that I fly particularly often, but the portions of that card would have been interesting enough for me to go into, but I didn't want to go grab who does that card cardless. Same with the Qatar card. That card gives you status with Qatar and gives you like nice status with Qatar for the first year of holding the card. But just because the card is shiny doesn't mean that I have to go out and get it. So, yeah, I go off of, can a welcome offer help me right now? Is there a welcome offer in the ecosystem that in the ecosystems that I'm currently in? And how likely am I to be able to get that card? Because if I don't know the ecosystem, like I'm not as well versed in Citi. Like I don't know Citi's rules as well as I should. I'm going to go out and do the research on Citi, but if I'm not going to fit into Citi's ecosystem, it doesn't make sense to go out and grab a Citi card if I'm not going to get it. I know Wells Fargo pretty well. Heck, Wells Fargo's sent me 3 offers for a second Signify card. Have I taken them up on it? No. Why? I haven't needed it yet. So, yeah, that's just a long-winded way of saying like really good sub is going to be an indicator for me. Do I have incidental upcoming high spend that I need to worry about? And the other thing was going to be like, is there a 0% offer that I can also work with? Because the Chase business cards that I've applied for have had 0% offers. The Wells Fargo Signify has a 0% offer. The Wells Fargo Tune had a 0% offer. 0% offers are more likely to trigger okay, if I have really expensive spend coming up, I'm going to go grab that so that I have the time to pay it off. So there we go. Taking the wind out of your sales, Tariq, how do you approach what triggers your want to get a new card, seeing as you went on a bit of a spree earlier this year?
It's funny because that was going back to the previous question about what are my travel credit card wins. Getting into the travel game and going stupid was a win for me, especially getting the Sapphire Preferred offer. That was kind of like it snowballed after that. But for double animal fries, my trigger out of the list, pretty much all of them except for like the new ecosystem, because like you, Matt, I have ecosystems, plenty of ecosystems. Like even though I'm not like all in the points, but I'm like American Express for cash, Bank of America, Capital One, Chase, City, Navy Federal, local credit union, and even Target, which God, I wish I didn't get that card and kept the debit card. So it would like you, I would be trying to find a card and ecosystem that I'm already in. Only other one, possibly Wells Fargo. Still waiting on them to figure out if they know what transfer partners are in that game.
They have transfer partners. It's a question of a higher level of transfer partner. They have good transfer partners.
Well,
they have
yes.
the transfer partners that everybody gets, except for Aeroplan, which I need them to grab Aeroplan as soon as possible. But they do okay.
Let me guess. I just like to rag on them because, who doesn't like to rag on them? It's Wells Fargo, the bank that everyone loves to hate. But aside from that, hell, I'm even in Bilt's program. I don't even have their card because you don't need to be Um, you know, elevated offers are definitely something that I look at. Uh, United still screws with me and sends me elevated email offers about the Explorer card, which for those who don't know, I applied and got denied, called Recon, and they still said no because I was like, oh, you're well over 524, basically, including your business cards. And I was like, ouch. Um, so that's one. Still waiting on that one. Not sure if the elevated offer will be there, but there's other ways because I would like to have that card for the benefits that it has because I would like to have an airline card for the airline that I want to be in. And I'm not, and that's probably the last I'm going to talk about that because it still hurts a little bit.
Bullshit.
So, RJ, shut up. Hey, I heard
Old.
that.
That
And you know
that was the
what?
intent, sir.
Yeah, I know. And watch your mouth. I want to make sure people can still see us. Save that for Save that for future endeavors or the pre and post shows.
We're deep enough in that like YouTube doesn't care.
See, no, because I don't want to unload my sailor mouth. Hizzle. Um, any high upcoming spend, that was a thing for me. Why I got the Hyatt business card because I was like, I have a good amount of spend for me to hit this. Why not? So, but for the most part, uh, topping up on like points balances right now. I just looked between my girlfriend and me. We're at like 200,000 UR points. So I don't need to top up on that. And I'm hitting spend on IG points, Hyatt points. Obviously, just hit the sub on that. So good on that. And then for the most part, it's just filling in the gaps. Like I said, I have another IHG Premier card that I want to get and potentially dabbling in the Bilt so I can just earn more points on rent without the fee. But that's kind of a shot in the dark because for the most part, I'm good and I can just stick to earning points the old fashioned way by just spending on my cards and not sub hunt.
There we go. We're going to get into the first in a litany of AP questions. So, AP, thank you so much for your many questions across the board. AP's first question that we're going to jump into is: what card does the community like that you don't agree with? Like Matt for the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Why don't you think that card is great, and why does the community overhype it? I will sit back on this one. Tariq, what card does the community like that you don't agree with?
So I'm going to preemptively apologize to Keith on this because this kind of goes on the first question that was asked. For me, is the Citi Strata Premier. For my personal reasons, one, I don't want to deal with Citi like that, especially. I mean, a lot of the hype that was around the Strata Premier refresh on Mother's Day 2024 was just a whole lot of BS to me. I know the people who like the Citi's ecosystem had the Citi Premier. They loved it. Some hated it for the rollout because there was no communication. It was just, hey, your card is now the Citi Strata Premier and elevated welcome offer. I get it. It's the same card with extra benefits. But obviously, we saw the whole, oh, is this the new CSP better than the Sapphire Preferred? All that. And I'm just like, it's unnecessary. For the people that love Citi, love the Strata Premier, great. For me, it's just a Citi card that I don't want to deal with because I don't want to dabble with Citi's transfer partners. I mean, aside from choice, but I'm not going to go dabble in Citi just so I can earn more choice points when I can just get the choice card because RJ showed me how good that choice card is. So that's me. Citi, eh. You know, if you like it, great. But I just think it got a lot of hype with that refresh. And maybe it was just because it was a new card refresh, and that's just when a lot of hype is garnered. But to me, it's just overrated.
What, you don't love those not best in class travel protections? But they brought back travel protections.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when you. I mean, I play Madden for crying out loud. So I've already seen them take away features and bring them back as brand new novel things. So like it's a lot of crap, and the people that get hype about it are probably getting paid to get hype about it.
Maybe, maybe not, but I take your point. RJ, what is a card that the community likes that you look at them sideways for?
Discover at Freedom Flex. Like I get it. But if there's a quarter or there's 2 quarters or 3 quarters a year where you're just not jiving with the categories they're putting down, it neuters the card completely. Like that's the problem, right? Like that's the crapshoot is do you use the categories that they put out? And I like the rotation of it, the chance that like for 3 months this card is quote worthless to me end quote like that just it drives me crazy. Like I am somebody who I spend a lot of time curating the categories of my cards and that muscle memory of this is the card I use for this thing. And Discover is a little more egregious because you can't retroactively if you forget to um put in for your next quarter. You can't retroactively do it, which I think is silly. But all in all, I just the rotational categories are not for me. And every time somebody brings up that this is the most amazing card because you can get this welcome offer, I'm like, cool. But if you don't get that welcome offer and you go 6 months without a category you really like, why is this card great again? So it is definitely a personal preference thing in terms of that part of it, but it drives me a little crazy how much people hype it up. Like, oh my God, if you get this offer, you can get 40 billion% back on groceries. And I'm like, I don't know if that's quite correct.
Yep, and just to piggyback on both RJ and Tariq's cards, one with the rotational category cards, Deer Chase and Discover, you dictate the categories. Don't make us turn them on. We have no choice. You turn them on. Bad Banks, no donut. Um, and on the Citi Strata premiere, it was a whole lot of nothing. I mean, yes, I was happy that the annual fee didn't change. I was glad that like when I made a prediction on it or made like speculations about that card many months before it officially launched, I was like, look, all they need to do is slap travel protections on this and not raise the annual fee, and hooray, you win your refresh. Like the ham-handed way that they did it was ridiculous. um Now, for the card that makes me go, really? With the community, that would be the Capital One Venture X. For $395, you get a $300 coupon in Capital One's travel portal. Why it can't be a standard $300 travel credit, I don't understand. It is the same card that is effectively cannibalized their venture card, with the only additions being access to Capital One's lounges and full priority pass. And beyond that, there wasn't a huge difference. And I don't understand, besides gaining transfer partners with the venture cards and the ability to pool with your Savor card, I don't see what the hype with the Capital One Venture X is. The credit is, to me, not worth it if you have to go through their portal. Now, it's nice that their portal is cheaper than other portals, but typically you don't want to go through a portal if you don't have to. Um, or most folks don't want to go through a portal if they don't have to. Their transfer partners aren't particularly fantastic. Like they've got the basics, they've got a couple other airlines that are of interest, but 2 to 1 to a core, who cares? Wyndham doesn't really strike too many people's fancies aside from the Wyndham Business Earner card, but you don't use the Wyndham Business Earner card to stay at Wyndham's. You use that to status match over to Caesars, which starting next year you can't do anymore. So what is the point of the Wyndham Business Earners card going forward? Then they don't have, if they have choice, it's 1 to 1 with choice. So they don't even get cities 1 to 2. Like they don't have spectacular hotel partners. They've got pretty good airline partners, and you can get great value out of their airline partners. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't do anything besides be a flat 2x earning card, which simplicity is great, but I don't understand the overwhelming love for this card.
You're omitting the superpower of Capital One cards, and that being 50% off drinks at Capital One cafes.
Woo!
You're forgetting the most important thing, Matt. It is a metal card.
I have 2 metal cards, one of which is completely useless, and the other is from Chase. So yeah, that's fair.
You did. To
Sorry,
be
I
fair,
have 3 metal cards.
To be fair, you also get 10,000 points on your anniversary. So I will at least say that I have this card, so I know the info a little more than typical just because I have the card. Personally, for me, like doing the research in this card, some of it is simply it is cheaper than the platinum, it is cheaper than the reserve, the Chase Sapphire Reserve. I think honestly, if this card was $500, $600, even if the travel credit bumped up to match, and was $100 less than the annual fee, I don't think it would get the same love. I think it simply is, it is cheaper than the quote closest competitors, so it gets that advantage. I really think that's part of it.
If Capital One had the same number of lounges as American Express, I could almost see the point there. I could almost see that, but like they're way behind on the lounge game. They're about to spend the next couple of years just like in the woods of dealing with this Discover merger and like building up the Discover network and whatever other cards are coming. Like I don't understand the love for it now. I could understand the love for it when it came out. And if they have to do any further cost cutting, like they've just made it so that you this came out earlier today. They've made it so that you can only bring 2 guests into priority pass lounges. Not the end of the world, right? Like you went from unlimited to 2, no big deal. But if they're going to continue further cost cutting, the first thing that's going to get cut from this card is that 10,000 anniversary points.
Maybe, though I feel like that is cheaper for them to do than some other things.
I think
That's
one
fair.
of the problems that Capital One has with the Venture X is, and maybe this is just my observation, they're spending a lot of money on like marketing the card. At least for me, I was watching some bowl game that was on today on ESPN, big time Disney network, and I've seen that Venture X commercial a few times. So I don't know how much they're spending on marketing. I'm sure if they cut back on the marketing budget, they could probably afford to keep some of the benefits that they're getting rid of. And maybe I'm just talking out the side of my neck. I don't know. It's what, 11 o'clock where I'm at, almost 11:30.
Was it the
Breaking
Capital One Venture X Bowl game that you were watching?
No, but it is Capital One Bowl Mania, which is what they do for all of the bowls on ESPN.
breaking news: Tariq hates Jennifer Gardner. News at 11.
No, oh crap! I forgot about the business one. I was talking about the personal one. I forgot that they do both the business and the personal Venture X, because I seen the one where it was like, "Do you like to travel? Well, Capital One has the card for you." I'm like, I've seen this card 15 times, this commercial 15 times today.
Oh yeah, they also couldn't afford to pay her to market the Venture X and the Venture X for Business and the Venture card. She only does two of the three. It's hilarious.
I really think that Capital One, it's both a blessing and a curse that the Venture X is 2x everything. Because if it was 1x everything and had three or four categories in the 3 to 5x range, I think a lot of things would be different. But I think having their top end card be 2x everything really hamstrings them. Without them changing that, they don't have a path forward. Um, and it's really hard to take a 2x everything card and change it to a 1x everything with categories. That is very, very hard. Not saying they can't do it, but it would lose a lot of people who have that card specifically for the credit, the points, the 2x everything of it all.
If they made that card four times dining, four times general travel, and one and a half everything else, they might be able to get away with it. But yeah, I don't know what they could do to that card. Two fits, two is nice, but
I
The
also
problem is, oh,
I also think with the Discover merger, anything they might want to do to that card is a year and a half to 2 years away because
yeah.
they have so much on their plate that that card is fine. Like it might upset Matt, it might upset some other people, but like the card is very popular. It's a pretty good card as somebody who holds it, but it's not like in desperate. It is not, to go back to the question, the CSP. Like it is not something where it actually really could use a change.
Yeah.
It is just something that annoys people in the credit card community, which is a small percentage of America.
yeah, I was just gonna say
Um,
the problem with like wanting to make a change on the Venture X or really any of the two venture cards, even the $95 annual fee venture cards, is that 2X just works. It's simple. It's good for the people that don't want to worry about three or four different categories of trying to maximize, like, because, like you said, RJ, the niche of the credit card community where we're trying to maximize and get as many points as possible per the categories. Even when I was just starting off in credit cards, I was just happy with a simple 2% cashback card. I just put everything on it. And then at the end of the year, I could look and see what my balance is and then redeem it however I see fit. So as a 2% or 2X travel card, and you get the additional benefits that for someone that travels, what, semi regularly, 1 to 2 times a year, it works. And it fits the simplicity mold of the everyday people, because I mean that's kind of what Capital One does, which was the weirdest thing when the Venture X kind of came out, because we see Capital One as the kind of lower subprime bank, and all of a sudden they come out with this uber premium credit card. So it kind of fits that mold of still being like the everyday regular card, even though it has the premium of a $300 credit. And again, that's why they have it through the Capital One portal, because for the everyday person, they're not going to try to want to dabble in the transfer partners like we do, especially because they don't really have a good domestic brand. It's just easier to redeem in the Capital One portal, because I've done it before on my Savor when I was still doing cashback. I did a hotel stay in the Capital One portal, and it was simple. And granted, it was a hotel, and I got lucky because I know I've seen plenty of horror stories booking OTAs, but it just worked. And I think Capital One's kind of leaning and relying on that simplicity sake for the Venture X and really their cards in general. And I guess in this sense, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Aside from the fact that they did too much, now they're having to scale back.
Yeah, again, like I don't think the card needs a massive overhaul or anything like that. Like I would overhaul the Sapphire Reserve before I overhauled the Capital One Venture X. I just don't understand the love for the Venture X when it cannibalized the Venture, doesn't do significantly more than the Venture, and like here's one thing that the Venture X could do more than the Venture to differentiate itself and justify its 395 annual fee, and don't come at me with the net -5 annual fee with the if you use the travel credit and you do the 10,000 anniversary points, make the redemptions in the portal 1.5.
But you're also trying to make things make sense in a way that like you care about the other cards in their lineup. Where the people who by and large really love this card don't care about the other cards in the lineup. They care about this card because the Venture X is treated as separate from Capital One. They have their own customer service. It is a very different card in terms of feeling. You know, you pull out a Venture X card, it is a different feeling than pulling out a Savor card in terms of just the feeling of the card, what you get with the card. You want things to make sense, which is admirable. I love you for it. Credit card companies don't care if it makes sense, they care if it makes money. And I say this surrounded by Apple gear. So I have some semblance of that because, you know, iPads. But yeah, I think you care about it making sense a lot more than the people who are pushing this card, for better or worse. Josh, who is a friend of the show, really likes his Venture X. He also is in a place with a lounge, so that helps him. So I don't think he's just shilling the Venture X to shill it. I think it's a card he genuinely finds use in, so he talks about it. So I really think it depends on your perspective on should things make sense in a lineup, or can you look at a card as a standalone thing that it doesn't matter if the rest of it makes sense.
That is completely fair. Um, a lot of this does not make sense to me because, well, you know, the banks are not our friends and are out to make their money, which yes, they absolutely are. Um, but it can make sense and make money too. Look at Apple if you forget that iPads exist.
I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't need to make sense to the banks as long as it's making them dollars.
Yes, I I know at the end of the day, P&L wins overall, but anyway, that is AP's first question. We're going to continue with another question from AP who asks, Alaska and Hawaiian is the fifth largest airline in the country. They are quite a force in the western United States, but fairly irrelevant on the East Coast. If Alaska wanted to greatly expand its reach and be more competitive on a national level, they need hubs and focus cities in other locales. Pick one hub and two focus cities that Alaska should expand to for future growth. No repeat locations, otherwise, it'll just be New York City. They're already in New York City, so we will I will leave New York City out. If you want to use New York City as the hub and pick interesting focus cities, be my guest. But let's do one hub, two focus cities, for Alaska Airlines. I'll take starting on this one. For the hub, Miami. I would go with Miami. You can expand. You're already a force in the Western United States. You're flying into like Baja California. You're flying down Tijuana. Continue that with a hub at Miami. You have all of Central America, the starts of South America. You have all the Caribbean at your disposal from Miami. Really quick flights. Those are also super profitable flights. American makes its bread and butter in out of Miami. So Miami would be my hub. Dallas, not Dallas. Dallas would be a focus city, and DC would be a focus city. Dallas doubling down on those Mexico, Central America locations out as international flights. You can also use Dallas as a waypoint between the East Coast and their West Coast hubs. Um, it can fill in gaps that would be needed to be filled to be a proper national carrier, and DC can be either an international focus for you or another, dump up to New York City, dump down to Miami, dump over to Dallas, and also be a transcontinental connection for your West Coast cities um, going into the nation's capital. So for me, the hub is Miami, and the two focus cities are DC and Dallas. RJ, your thoughts here?
So I am going to put one of the focus cities in Atlanta. Atlanta is the busiest airport in the United States of America. So if you want to focus on a place with a lot of coverage, Atlanta ain't a bad place to start. I'm going to put my other one in Boston because you've got Europe is pretty accessible from Boston. It's a pretty big airport. It's a nice, easy place where, yes, there are a lot of airplanes there, but it's a fairly large airport. And then I will pick I'll just say DC in general because you did not specify. So there are multiple DC airports. I will put my hub in DC. That gets you a lot of people coming in and out for both, the middle of the country, the West Coast. But I would sort of blanket the coverage in that way, sort of hub in the middle, focus city on both sides of the East Coast. That way, you can get from Atlanta to the Caribbean, South America pretty quickly. Not as quick as Miami, but not far behind. In the size of Atlanta, sort of lend yourself because there are a lot of connections that come through Atlanta. There are a lot of people that will drive to Atlanta because of the size of Atlanta's airport versus going out of their smaller airport. So it sort of behooves you to be there en masse. So I think that would be an interesting focus city for them to focus on. Even just picking that one of the three, I think could do them a lot of good.
Yep. No, I absolutely agree. Tariq, one hub, two focus cities.
So, Matt, when you brought up Dallas as a focus city for Alaska, Hawaiian, and you made the point of kind of the bridge between the West Coast and the East Coast, that was kind of what I was going for, with the exception of using Dallas as a focus city. I was going to do Austin Bergstrom as a hub. And as much as it pains me to give Austin credit in that because of the San Antonio boy that I am, it makes the most sense. I want to say San Antonio, but Austin is just in a better location. Central Texas, it works. So you got that bridge between West and East Coast. It kind of helps with that connection, those connections. One focus city that I'm going to say is Orlando, because you got the mouse, you got Disney. Who doesn't like going to Disney? And you have Universal as well. So obviously we're not Disney adults here, but there are plenty of Disney adults. And they're a weird bunch. But that's a focus. A lot of people are going to travel to Orlando for that. Same thing with Universal. So you have Universal and you have Disney for Orlando. And then, the last one, I guess I'll say Chicago. It's kind of a repeat, even though it's not necessarily too much East Coast, but there's a lot to do in Chicago. It's a good focus. You got two good airports. You can probably, instead of going O'Hare, you can do Midway and just fight with Southwest versus dealing with United and American and that behemoth. So it could help out with that. So Austin as my hub and Orlando and Chicago as focus cities.
All right, there we go. Different takes all around. I like it. We're gonna deviate away from AP questions to some other questions. This next question comes from Ronald. I'm not sure if this is Ronald's first question on the podcast. If anyone wants to fact check me on that one, we're not sure. All right, no worries. Ronald asks, at what point in life do you see yourself transitioning into a complete cashback setup? Tariq, when do you see yourself going back to cashback?
That's a hard one. I would say for me to just completely transition to cashback would just be me having enough money to where I can just pay for the hotel room that I want status, paying for whatever flight that I want, that getting travel cards wouldn't really matter to me. It's almost essentially having FU money to where getting a 2% cashback card for everything, or I think I have. I mean, I have Alliant Credit Union now, so a 2.5% cashback card where I just have enough money that the travel game and trying to squeeze every single dollar for a point that I can get would just be too much of a headache with the money that I have. So for me, it's when I'm just filthy stinking rich. And I feel like that's a cop out, but that's just where I am on that. Because, I know too much about the game now, just off the not even full year that I've been into it, that I enjoy the game too much. And unless I can just pay for first class for every single flight without even a second thought. My entire family's in first class, don't care about the status. I can be in a Grand Hyatt or Ritz Carlton or, uh, Waldorf Astoria, you name it, or even Four Seasons, because you can't even do points there. So once I get that kind of money, I wouldn't care about points. Give me a 2% cashback card so I don't feel like having to put it on a debit card, and then make my life as easy as I can.
RJ, what part of your brain would have to go dark for you to consider going into the complete cashback side of things?
So after the lobotomy happens, I think it'll be a bit easier. No, honestly, I don't see it happening without the landscape around cashback cards changing. Because we were talking in the pre-show, there is not a cashback card really around that could step in for my platinum. Like in terms of lounge access, in terms of perks, different things like that, hotel status, there's just not. And a lot of cards are like that. The Delta Reserve, a lot of the United cards, you can't have a cashback card that does those things. So for me, if the landscape changed and suddenly there was cashback cards that gave you those options, then it's a possibility, right? If there was a cashback card that gave me, a flat 2x on everything and had the same perks as the platinum, like that would be something that I would take a look at. But there's not that card for anybody, really. You know, hotel status, lounge access, things like that. You kind of need travel cards, and travel cards by and large are not cashback, they're points earning. So it really is, it's difficult for me to say, and I know the joke in the server is I can't just say no, but my answer is the landscape has to change. Because, or something like if I won the lotto tomorrow, like Tariq said, and I just do not care about dollars and cents anymore, then yeah, like maybe I go cashback, maybe I just get a 2x everything. Yeah. I have 17 Blue Business Pluses that I'm just running everything through. Something like that. But until the landscape changes and cashback cards have a renaissance where they can offer those things, I don't see a reason why I would not also have points cards, and that's not a complete cashback setting. Like I could in theory cash my Amex points out, but I can do math and that is bad math. Like even my general dislike of points math like cannot get by 60% or 80%. Like I can't, even I can do that math and that's no bueno.
Yeah, I think I would have to be in a point where I am not as interested in family travel. I'm not as interested in trying to get, as much subsidized travel as I can extract out of the points that I'm earning right now. For me, I am uh, I think of the points that I have as 1 penny per point, which is great. And I typically work in ecosystems that I could at least cash out, because I always have the oh crap moment. We're going to call it the oh crap moment. There's a different word there for the algorithm. But I always have that lingering thought. So if I need to do something, I want to make sure that I can convert my points to cash as quickly as possible. Now, the only two cards that are inhibiting my ability to do that, or the only three cards that are really inhibiting my ability to do that, are my Blue Business Plus. If I eventually get a Business Platinum and open an American Express business checking account, that's less of a concern, but that's two steps that I have to do. Or I get a Charles Schwab Platinum card, but that's a whole other thing. Then there's the Hilton Honors card, no annual fee. I can burn those points really quickly on a quick hotel, like a quick 2 nights at a hotel, um, maybe 3. And then the JetBlue points. Everything else is points that are convertible to cash. So I always keep my points in a position where if I ever need to, I can switch them back. Going completely cash back and giving up the Hilton card and giving up the JetBlue card, and I don't know what I'm doing with my American Express points. Um, I don't see that for a little while, but like I would have to be at a point where like I don't want to do the family trips. I don't want to fly for myself. I don't want to fly with me and my partner. I don't want or like um my kid is at a point where they can travel by themselves, so like I don't need to worry about it. I'll just transfer all the points over to them. Um that that is a while away. So at least 10, 15, probably 20 years before I have to consider going back to cashback. But in that, 10, 20 years, I'm going to keep as many of my points in cash out advantaged positions for myself, if that's the best way to put it. Cash out advant. That sounds so stupid.
You'll have a video on that in like 3 weeks where you have a 20-minute like therapy session on camera about cashing points out.
I'll call Lonnie. All right. So thanks, Ronald, for that one. We're gonna go to another question. This one from Jason, who asks, "What got you interested in points and miles?" I'll kick it off on this one. Just seeing the ability to not have to book cash for a hotel, and realizing, oh, I could book a Hyatt for 5,000 points, and if I were to say that those points were worth a penny a point, that's what, $50? Whereas if I paid cash, I'd be paying 120 for the night. That sounds silly, and I don't want to go through third-party options anymore, and I can get that night to count towards status. Where do I sign? So when that light finally turned on, that's kind of when I started getting interested in the last couple of years. Also, the fact that I have a small young family, not having to shell out, $1,000 or $2,000, or God help me if I wanted to fly business class to Europe, a few $1,000s. The fact that you can do this on 45,000 points, 60,000 points a person, is far more appealing to me than paying the out of pocket costs that I would. So when the light finally turned on that one, it was, oh, that makes more sense to do. Why am I not doing this? So that is why I am trying to hoard as many points as possible, so that when I try to do those transatlantic flights, I am paying as little as possible for those. Even though I am heavily subsidizing it with all the spend I'm doing now to set that up. The math may not math completely, but I'm going to be very happy when I don't have to spend, $4,000 for a flight for 3 round trip, international business class. So that's when it lit up for me. RJ, when did you see the light and have that portion of your brain spark up?
Yeah, it was probably about 18 or so months ago when I when I looked at what I was doing and what I was getting for what I was doing in sort of a cashback world and went, I don't like these numbers and I don't know how to get the numbers better, but I don't like these numbers. And then I started, it's that thing where you're just like, end of the day, you're just sort of scrolling. It's almost like a Wikipedia hole, but without it being wiki. Like you just sort of go, I'm like, huh, that card's interesting. And yeah, I do spend a lot in that category. That would be nice to get more than like 2% or whatever. Huh. And that card's really interesting. And I am traveling more, so having those 3x category, huh. And then you just sort of have that light bulb moment where you get a card and hit a sub and you're like, "Oh yeah, I have 80,000 points. I want to do a weekend away with a friend and just like hang out and do a road trip. Oh, I don't have to pay for the hotel. I have these ooh, it's kind of nice. Like it just sort of snowballs, right? Like sometimes it's not in a giant moment where the light goes off. Sometimes it's just like, oh, I have these points. I use these points. I like having these points and being able to use these points when I want. So for me, it wasn't like a giant moment. It was more sort of these little moments that sort of added up. So that was probably about 18 months or so ago that I got heavily into it, and I've gone from there.
There we go. Tariq?
So it was about 2 years ago for me. I was already kind of getting deep into like the cashback, and it was around probably a couple months after I got it was like, yeah, the Capital One Savor One, as what it was at the time. Now the Savor. I was watching a Proud Money video. I want to say this was sometime in August, July, August time. I was saving up money to go to a University of Texas college football game. Was watching my UTSA play Texas in Austin, and I was thinking about doing a hotel there. And it was the video that Adam Jusko did about the Capital One changes, where they announce that the Savor One and the Savor can earn points and on the portal, and even you can redeem the cash back through the Capital One portal for hotels. I think I end up using that for a trip to Houston that same year. And I had just started using my cash back once the football season was going, and I was using my cash back for hotel stays. And I started watching more YouTube videos about it and learning about the points and miles game and learning about Hyatt, learning about Marriott, and realizing, oh, instead of redeeming cash back for these hotel stays through travel portals, or even, booking the hotel and then just using the cash back to, pay it off that way, I looked at the points like you, Matt. I looked at Hyatt and I was seeing like, oh, this at 1 cent per point, this is like $100 in points for like a $300-$400 hotel. So that's when I started doing more research into the chase, as most people in the credit card game starting do. And from there, it was history. Started the beginning of the year when I got the Freedom Flex. And then once I got my Sapphire Preferred and started redeeming the points, it's just been the gravy train from there. So credit my credit Capital One for kind of getting the ball rolling, on top of my passion for my college football team.
There we go. All right. Um, yeah, so I think once you realize that, like, oh, travel doesn't have to be as expensive as we make it out to be, um, light bulbs go on. And yeah, just don't do the math for Hilton redemptions, because you're going to cry if you're not using Fifth Night Free.
They're
Yeah,
fine if you get a standard room. Don't let Matt scare you guys. Hilton is fine. I promise you, it's fine.
they're fine. There. All right, so we're going to move to another question, and if Senator Stackhouse will allow, this question is in 5 parts. So let us begin. This question comes from Keith, and Keith, I'm sorry for that little intro for it. But let's begin here with, should Bilt's points value be reevaluated since they no longer offer transfer bonuses like they used to, and American Airlines left the program? Let me further elaborate. Bilt convinced some of us to accept 1x earnings, which we normally never would accept, and to hope and wait for rent day transfer bonuses to the likes of Aeroplan and Flying Blue with 150% transfer bonuses. Those are all but gone, and and if there is anything decent, then the number of bonus points are capped. I finally came to the realization that earning 2x on my Venture X with a 20%, 30%, or 40% bonus to some of these programs comes out just as good or better than what Bilt is offering on a 1-day transfer bonus, especially every few months. This is the current math, which since they nerfed double points on rent day by 90%, by lowering the double points offerings to 1/10 of the original rates and the extremely limited transfer bonuses, I no longer see much of the same value in the Bilt program as I once did. You can get 1x on an Alaska or Hyatt card all day long. If you want Hyatt points, then the Chase Freedom Unlimited for 1.5x unlimited points or 3x dining is better. So, should Bilt's points value be reevaluated since they no longer offer transfer balances like they used to? Yes, but every program should be reevaluated every year. But I'll come back to my answer. Tariq, we'll have you start off.
Before I say my answer, I just want to say to Keith, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry that Bilt, in your eyes, completely screwed you over with what they did. I know a lot of people who were upset. I know Lonnie was critical, has been critical of Bilt as well. Changes, what they did, sucked. And I get it. I understand. Get Roger Goodell off because, he's the commissioner of the No Fun League. And since he's been in there, Bilt has gone to crap. And I respect and I understand having your upside down Bilt logo as your profile, and it is understandable. With that being said, like you said, Matt, every points or curve ecosystem should be reevaluated. But at the same time, I didn't take into effect the transfer bonuses as part of the Bilt point evaluation. Losing American Airlines, yeah, that did suck. But at the end of the day, they still have Hyatt. And because they still have Hyatt, it can be that floor value can be 2 cents per point if you're redeeming for a Hyatt stay. And even if you were to go into, floor value, I guess, for transfer partners, because I think with the Bilt card, you get the 1.25 cents per point with the Bilt travel portal. And you could still even find like those white whale, those outsized transfer partners with international business class, however you see fit, if you do the work that way. I think in the spirit of your question, Keith, Bilt points are still going to be probably worth about the valuation of it. Obviously, there was a lot of hype. I think the points guy was involved in the Bilt program. So, yes, they're going to show some favor towards Bilt to market Bilt for people to join the Bilt program and get the Bilt card. But if we're being honest in regards to point valuations, it can be, for the most part, it gets kind of subjective because people are going to evaluate points in a different way because there's no true one-to-one evaluation, because some people are going to look at it of the points of the price minus, not including fees, including fees, in plus tax, minus tax, base rate. There's so many different variables that play into effect. Plus, depending on the day that you book where you're looking at the flight that you're going to go book or the hotel stay, you're going to say those rates change. They're variable rates. So I don't think, unless there is a true concrete universal point valuation, it's hard to say like what a fixed value of a point in the credit card ecosystem is.
All right. RJ?
Keith, buddy, this is not a program for you anymore. Maybe it was never a program for you, but it's definitely not a program for you now. And I think it's okay. I don't. Do I think that Bilt has done well this year? No. Do I think that they have a lot that they need to clean up? Yes. But I think this is firmly just not a program for you, and that's okay. It is. It is okay. This is your X1 card. Like you bet, and you lost. Matt bet on that card, and he lost, and it's okay. Every once in a while, we bet and we lose. Like if you're a renter, this is a great program in theory, right? Like there are pitfalls and there are problems, but if you're a renter and you can use this card for your rent, it's not a bad program. But if you're a homeowner and they don't have the mortgages part out yet, and maybe they get it and maybe they don't, who knows? Until it launches and we know all the fine print, like I'm not going to hold my breath. So some programs are just not for everybody. Yes, they gave you a lot of promises and they delivered for part of the year and then didn't deliver for another part of the year. Like, I'm sorry. Do I wish they were better? Absolutely. Am I surprised they're not? Not really. Like, they are basically a fintech wrapped around a Wells Fargo logo. Like, they're not a Wells Fargo card. Not really. Like, they also don't have good customer service. You can't actually call them on the phone in most cases. And if you can reach them on the phone, they tell you to call Wells Fargo. You call Wells Fargo, they tell you to call Bilt. So it's not a great program. It's never been a great program. They just had some insane deals to get people lured in. It's like a dentist who gives away lollipops in the waiting room to make sure you come back in a few months to get your teeth cleaned again. Like it sucks, but I think at this point, buddy, it's not a program for you, and that's okay. Like it's not okay the program is devalued itself, but it is okay that it's not for you and you move on. Sometimes you just have to move on.
Yep. Um, I personally have dreaded thinking about this question just because, yes, points value should be reevaluated. Everybody's points value should be reevaluated. Hyatt's points value should be reevaluated after the Mr. and Mrs. Smith debacle earlier this year. The fact that Mr. and Mrs. Smith is on variable pricing and the rest of the pricing for Hyatt is on an award chart. They've just announced a relationship with the Venetian. Is the Venetian going to be dynamically priced? If it's going to be dynamically priced, what does that mean for Hyatt points overall? I think Hyatt points have taken a dive, and that's a long way to go to say that, yes, Bilt points should be reevaluated. Doesn't help that Brian Kelly, that like the editor in chief of the points guy, is a strategic advisor to Bilt. That doesn't help in terms of like the gold standard in points evaluation having a say in what Bilt points are technically worth. Now, all that being said, I think the program has taken some steps back this year. I don't think that they were ever going to be able to fully give you, 150% transfer bonuses to Aeroplan and KLM, mainly because Aeroplan and KLM were the only partners that were willing to go to 150%. Hyatt, there's never been a transfer bonus to Hyatt, whether through Chase or through Bilt. The most that you got with Hyatt was a globalist challenge. United hasn't done a transfer bonus with Bilt. They haven't done transfer bonuses with Hilton when Hilton launched like their status match. They did a status match for gold. Am I going to complete that? No. Am I going to get gold status later in the year? We'll see. But the program took a step back, and I think reassessing the step back is one thing, but then, you know, be open to what the next phase of the program is going to be. Like the next phase of the program is going to be more suited toward homeowners. That's where they say that they're going. Like, yes, be skeptical. Yes, they need to hire as many laid off Discover customer service representatives as possible. As soon as those layoffs are announced, like Bilt needs to swoop right in. They and Wells Fargo need to cross train customer service like there's no tomorrow, because that lack of communication between the two brands is absolutely unacceptable. Um, you know, I wouldn't worry about the transfer bonuses being baked in. I think status is going to matter with those sort of things going forward, but put them on the back burner. Wait to see what they do with mortgages. They're also improving their renters program. They're going to be introducing something along the lines of retention bonuses for folks who re-up their lease going forward. So like they're doing things that are going to make their renting program better. They're doing things that are going to make they're starting their home purchasing program. They're starting their mortgage program at some point next year. Obviously, go through the fine print, go through it with a fine tooth comb. Um, right now, your VentureX giving you 20% transfer bonuses to Flying Blue is probably better off for you. I'm not going to say write off the program completely, but yeah, the program that you entered is not the program that everybody was raving about. And you just happened to enter the program at an inopportune time. It didn't help that when I remember you entering the program was around the time that there were other shenanigans happening in the program that needed to get shut down. But I don't think that the two are one and the same. Put them on the back burner. Don't get angry about rent day. Like, I know that this question is going to come up every month. Relax. Um, let them cook in the background, and we'll see what happens with mortgages. If mortgage and their mortgage opportunities and their mortgage point producing is not to your liking, and they don't bring back first of the month transfer bonuses, kill the card. It's just it'll probably just be easier. I think they're going to do interesting things in 2025, but I also know that there are huge limitations to their program. Take the good with the bad, put them on ice. If there are more reputable brands for you right now, use those more reputable brands. But yeah, I'm hoping that Bilt gets better, but I'm not going to tell you to gamble and bet that Bilt gets better. They need to fix a lot of things before, like, I would be like, oh yeah, no, absolutely go get Bilt. I think they have a recipe for success, but recipes are one thing. Like, the recipe for a souffle is great. Actually getting your souffle to rise is a whole other thing. So just wait, put the card on the back burner. Don't worry about them. Don't look at rent day. Wait for their mortgage stuff to come out. If the mortgage is a better fit, come back.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Keith, use this episode as your green light to stop caring about Bilt. Stop using, you don't have to worry about exerting brain calories in whether or not they're going to get better, because I get it. It's been frustrating, and the game is not for you to be frustrated with. If you're getting a lot better value, like you said with the Venture X, use the Venture X. I don't even have the Bilt card, and I don't. Well, I get it. Hell, I don't know. Like I'm seeing the potential of it, but again, I don't want to bank on getting a card for its potential. So it's a no annual fee card. Like Matt said, put it on the back burner, throw it on the sock drawer, earn where you can maximize the most, and play the game that's going to maximize and benefit you the best, man. At this point, for you, screw Bilt. You know, you got the upside down logo for a reason. So, hey, give Bilt the bird and move on, man. Be happy.
All right. So we're going to continue with a part Keith question, part Spathco question. What's the story of the worst hotel stay you've ever had? And Keith expands upon it to say, have you ever had such a bad experience with a hotel chain or with an airline that you'll never use them again? Name and shame. RJ, any terrible stories?
I was driving to Pittsburgh from New York once, and I stopped at a motel on the side of the road. And when I walked into the room, it was it was cash only, no credit cards. Two, there was used items on the bed of an adult nature. So I turned around and walked out. Now, I don't remember what the name of the hotel was. It was some low end chain, but I cannot for the life of me recall. I tried to like Google um, the route I took to see if I could find it, and I could not. So I went to a Days Inn. So be careful about those no-name motels on the side of the road. And this was like not a place that looked particularly shady until you were in the room, and then it's like, nope. Um, I really haven't had a ton of bad luck with the main players, the Marriotts, the Hyatts, or I'm sorry, the Hiltons. Um, Places like that. I also tend to do a lot of research before I stay at a hotel. Like, I am not the let's just drive until we get tired and then stay at the first one we see. Like, I have pulled reviews. I know what I'm booking. I know what I'm looking at, um, which helps. Now, to Spathco's question, Spathco has shared in the Discord, plug for our Stack Your Points Discord, that he has stayed at some really nice hotels and has not had a particularly nice experience. So it is not just the low end hotels, and it's just not the people who don't do their research. So it can happen to anybody. But I'm knocking on my bamboo desk, which is ostensibly wood, for this time, and saying I haven't had a terrible experience in a very long time and not at any of the reputable chains.
There we go. I would regale with stories of my own, but I'm blanking, honestly. Most of all of my my hotel experiences with the major brands, so Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, IHG, have been fine. Um, I have not stayed at an IHG in a little while. Maybe the sketchiest place that I've stayed in some time was a Quality Inn, but it was like a $70 Quality Inn. But it was fine ish. It was as clean as it was going to be. I did not have the experience that RJ had with that. So I haven't had to my recollection anything that stuck out as a horror story with a hotel. And none really with airlines. I typically avoid um my airline horror stories have been like long delays that were not the airline's fault. Like um having to wait for a flight to Raleigh Durham from JFK for like a 2.5 hour delay to the flight, and I was flying to my friend's wedding that was like the next day or the day after, and I just wanted to get there. So like that extra 2.5 hours just sitting at JFK, and I didn't know what lounges were. I didn't know that there were these magical places you could go and it would be quiet. So I just sat at the hotel, not the hotel, the airport, the terminal restaurant that charged obnoxious prices for everything, and just continued my tale of woe that day. But that was not JetBlue's fault. It was bad weather. Um, so I've had those experiences. I haven't really had anything where like the flight attendants were bad. I haven't had anything where like the flight was awful because of the things that the airline did. Um, Hotels, I typically stay at the chains. Back before my time of learning about points and miles, I was big on using Priceline's Name Your Own Price feature, which was really, really useful for the longest time. And to avoid like seedy motels, seedy hotels, I would always say I want at least $100 a night, 100 to 120. I will pay between 100 and 120. Put me wherever. I had generally okay times with that. Now, that is not to say that if you're spending 100 to $120 a night, you're going to have a guaranteed great experience, but I lucked out. So I haven't really had those experiences. Um, None such that they have been seared into my brain. But Tariq, have you happened to come across any hotel or airline horror stories?
So horror stories, it's I guess to the viewer what they say. Uh, I was going to Houston for my best friend's 21st birthday party. I was a broke college student, didn't really understand the points of miles game. And I stayed at a Super 8 that was like somewhere off of outside of downtown, but not downtown in a sketchy part of Houston. And I realized I kind of screwed up when I walked into the lobby and the front desk was just behind bulletproof glass. I was like, oh, okay. You know what? I'm only here for a couple nights and it's for my best friend. What's the worst that could happen? Fortunately, nothing bad happened. So it was cool. Again, in Houston, again, Houston, I like going to that city, which is wild to me. Um, this was last year. My girlfriend and her sister were going to a Beyonce concert, and it was supposed to be with her mom, but her mom didn't want to go, so I got invited in place. Great concert, by the way. Ended up staying a night. It was at the time a Courtyard by Marriott in the Houston Brook Hollow area, and I looked it up. It's not even a Courtyard anymore. Marriott got rid of that hotel, so say with that as you wish. Um, so I was only there for a night, so I was like, I couldn't really complain or do too much. You know, you walk in, didn't seem like anything too bad. Went to the bathroom. I think I saw it in the morning or whatnot. Just little bugs. I don't even know what kind of bugs they were. Just like a line of them just scrolling through like the sink and stuff, and even on the AC unit. Again, I was only there for a night, and I was barely in the hotel. It was a place to sleep, and I just wouldn't. I wish I wouldn't have done it again. And then when we got back from the Beyonce concert, I realized my hotel had a nice view of this place called the library. And I'm just gonna say, this place that you don't check out books at this library. It's a certain club for gentlemen. It's all I'm gonna say after looking it up. And I said, oh, this is a nice view. So getting home from a Beyonce concert, which was a great concert, great show, but getting home at like back to the hotel at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and seeing a view from my window of my already crappy hotel room of a line of gentlemen going into this very dark building and doing research as to what this place is, and now looking it up and realizing that it's no longer affiliated. It is no longer a Marriott property. As a matter of fact, it is called Heritage Place, Houston Brook Hollow. I think that within itself says all I need to know. It's a hotel that even Marriott is like, nah, bro, we want nothing to do with this anymore. Um, Airline horror stories. I don't call it a horror story. I was just a very, very long delay with some plane maintenance issue. I think it was an Airbus. I don't remember. It was a United flight. We were coming back from Dulles, and it was already in a crappy mood for me because I was going there and coming back from my grandfather's funeral. And so having a delay on that after just a very somber couple days burying my grandfather, which for me was the first time I had a family member very close to me pass, just to be in a like hour plus long stay on the tarmac, flying back home, and we flew in the airport that gave us a direct flight. So I still had an hour drive back home from the airport. So not a knock on United, obviously enough because I scream from the heavens about Mileage Plus X. So it's kind of ironic knowing that being my worst plane experience, but it wasn't their fault necessarily. It's kind of hard to have a good or bad experience when all you're thinking about is my loved one has passed.
No, definitely makes sense. Yeah, no, that's never a good travel day, uh, at all. So that that makes sense. Yeah. So not too many horror stories on our end. I'm sure we'll try to remember to ask Lonnie if he's had any horror stories and to do the name and shame game when Lonnie is back. I'm sure he will better answer that than any of us have to this point. Um, so we have two more questions and then our final question. So we have three more questions. Why would I do this? So we're going back to AP, the AP train, and AP asks, do you ever seek out or utilize 0% APR offers? What's your typical game plan for funds? And do you pay back gradually or wait until the last month and pay in whole or pay in full? So I'll answer, do I ever seek out or utilize 0% APR offers? Yes, I do. I happen to get 0% balance transfer offers from Capital One often. They very much want me to pay 4% to for them to hold on to a balance that they'll eventually try to get like 27 to 29% interest on and backdate that. But I pay in full before that happens. My typical game plan for the funds that aren't being used for that are either being used for other things or um, I don't open CDs. I don't open HISAs with it. I should be looking into that. Honestly, I think one thing I'll try to start doing over time is taking some of the money that I'm not putting toward that direct credit card or that direct balance and trying to do some bank account bonuses just to level up a little bit. That is going to be a new strategy I'll try to employ if I remember to, because I'm forgetful. But do I seek out 0% APR offers? Yes. How do I utilize them? Balance transfer, pay the 4% up front, pay everything down as quickly as I can if it's gradual for 6 months, and then get really aggressive over the back half of the 6 months. Kind of depends on the offer, because if you have a 12-month offer, there's a way to approach that. If you have a 15-month offer, there's a way to approach that. If you have a 21-month offer, there's a way to approach that. So whichever 0% APR offer you're using, you'll probably have a different strategy for each one. 12, there's not a whole lot of time. 12 months happens pretty quickly. 18 months is a little bit different. 21 months is even more different. So yeah, that's all I'll say there. But I will pay down gradually and then kind of take the last 6 months of whatever my offer is and really start hacking away at whatever that balance is to make sure I pay it off in full before they can start backdating some interest and trying any other nonsense. Because again, the bank wants money. Tariq, do you seek out or utilize 0% offers?
You ever had to buy tires for your car? So yeah, I had to do that with mine. Had a discount tire card, and unfortunately, it closed on me because I've had it for 5 years and only put one charge on it because I didn't need to buy tires for quite some time because I kept getting new cars. Gifts, not me going into car payments like that because I'm crazy. Fortunately, I have family connections that let me use their same discount tire card, and I just paid them back as a way of the 0%, because I could have just paid for it outright. I had the cash for it, but even though it's a little bit of 5% of 1,000 in a high yield savings is not much. I'd much rather just let the money sit as much as I can and let it grow, and then just pay myself or pay that back. Because in theory, I would have just taken the money out of that high yield savings and paid myself back, and it potentially would have lost money on the difference of the opportunity cost of it just sitting in a high yield savings or even an investment. So uh if I if I'm able to have 0% offers that don't require me to open up a new card for right now because of a certain rule from one and maybe even a second bank, not uh, uh proven yet, but if that ends up not being an issue for me, yeah, sure. If I have a huge purchase and I can just pay it off over a few months and let the money sit in an account where the difference in the interest in like an investment or even the high yield savings. I don't do CDs. Um, I'd much rather have my money more liquid than that. But if I can, even if it's a little bit of interest on the spread, sure, why not? I mean, if not, I could just pay it out in cash and then just pay myself back. But I guess what's the fun in that when I can make more money in theory?
RJ, 0% APR offers. Do you seek them out? Do you utilize them? What's your approach here?
I seek them out when I need them. I pay them sort of over 12 or 18 or 21 months and I move on with my life. I don't do anything fancy. I am not like stashing 5K in a high yield savings account or a CD. Like, if I need to use a 0% APR offer, I probably don't have the 5 grand to just plunk down on the thing in the first place. Like, I wish I had the income where that was not a problem and I could do that, but I don't. Um, so yeah, if I'm using a zero APR, there's a reason, and the reason is I need the time allotted to pay it off. So that's how I do that. It's boring, but it's the truth.
Yeah, at most, I might try to start bank account bonuses, utilizing that, but I have not to this point, and I'm gonna have to put my ducks in a row and make sure that I do it properly. But I'm not gonna seek out a 0% card to start financing bank account bonuses. Primarily, if I'm going for a 0% offer, it's a balance transfer offer. It's to move funds off of card A over to card B. Um, and right now, if I can find business card balance transfer offers, I'm gonna do those to get it off my personal and into my and onto my business. Um, you didn't hear that, any lending institution who may be listening at whatever point in the recording we're at. Of course not. Um, all right, so that'll do that. Our last AP question reads: what are your endgame setups? No more than 5 cards. So end game setups, no more than 5 cards. And we'll start with RJ.
So I am changing the rules and grandfathering in the Apple Card because we're not counting. I don't use it as a credit card. I use it as a loan installment for Apple purchases. So I'm gonna not include that card. But just know that that card will be pried out of my cold dead hands. Um, so what would I actually use as my actual setup? There's 3 American Express cards and 2 non-American Express cards. Um, the American Express cards are the Platinum, the Hilton, probably the Surpass. I don't really need Platinum from Hilton or Diamond from Hilton, so um, I'm okay with that. And then a Delta Sky Miles card, probably the Reserve, but any of the top three, you get the 15% redemption off for redemption flights. And then probably the autograph from Wells Fargo and the Active Cash. I'm not going with any business cards for the setup. This is sort of like at the end of the day, if I just needed 5 cards, I wouldn't do a business card. So The Wells Fargo ones I can use with choice. Flat 2% card that's pretty easy to use. And then the autograph would be in place of the green, just for travel and for, when I leave the country, things like that. So, pretty easy setup and, gets the job done.
All right. Tariq, your endgame setup.
So, unfortunately, because of my partners of choice, it's a lot. It's very chase heavy, but it is what it is.
Shocker.
But the United Club Infinite, because I want to get all the United lounges. Why not? The IHG Premier personal version. Not going to deal with the business on this one. Going to go World of Hyatt, even though it's not a great card. I like the benefit. Put a little spin on it. Maybe I can get more than one free night certificate out of the year, but for $95, you get the free night cert that I can use for, at the very least, my New Year's Eve hotel that I'm doing, in probably like 12 hours or 16 hours from now at the time of this recording. So that's 3. Off ball one, it would be the PenFed Pathfinder card, just for the 100, because I would put the $500 in that PenFed checking account, so that would waive the annual fee, and I get $100, put that towards United Travel Bank, and then I get like the credit, even though I have TSA pre-check on like pretty much most of the other cards that I would have for that. And then, for a fifth one, just to say screw it, why not, and just have other access to it. Screw it. Let me go platinum just to try it out and see what I have. And I was gonna go Sapphire Reserve, but I have all the chase cards, so I'm like, why not? Maybe I can just dabble in the American Express coupon book for S and Gs.
I love that you're going with, I want to dabble in American Express for
With the
endgame
most
setup.
expensive
I'm going to
card.
go with the platinum.
I mean, if it's Endgame, why not?
Look, the platinum's a great card. I have the platinum and I have zero desire to cancel the platinum. Yeah, I just uniquely have been gifted with all of the credits that I need to be able to go forward, but the I don't recommend the platinum for most people. I wouldn't recommend the platinum to you currently, but in a hypothetical 30 years from now scenario, I hope the platinum fits in your life, Tariq.
At that point, I would wish to have the borderline spin where I could just say, screw it. My endgame setup is a 2% cashback credit card, and I pay first class for everything that I feel like paying for.
I pay first class for everything I feel like paying for, and I do not have FU money.
Different circumstances, different scenarios. If I was there, I would absolutely do so.
I love my life. I love myself. That's the difference, is I have standards. I've also
All right.
never flown a Southwest flight.
It's going to get better with Southwest. They're going to start assigning seats. It's fine, ish, maybe. I'm really grasping at straws with Southwest here. All right. So endgame setup. I'm going to sound boring. And I drone on this podcast a lot, so me being boring, who knows? That happens. Taking into account that it is now New Year's Eve of 2024. This is what I would hold on as of New Year's Eve of 2024. This is subject to change too, of like more awesome cards coming out in the future, obviously. As of right now, I could get by in a final setup of the Wells Fargo autograph card that I hold currently, 3% hard, strong 3% earner, If I want to travel, I can still transfer out to a good number of programs. I wouldn't be able to transfer over to JetBlue as of now. Maybe that changes. Maybe that doesn't. Who knows? But I can make things work. I would also have the active cash as my 2% flat earning card for most things in life. That two card setup can cover a lot of your spend in life. I would also, because I feel I have signed up for global entry and TSA PreCheck. I feel that is going to be a product in which I am never going to want to give it up. So yes, I could hold on to the Sapphire Reserve for as long as I want. But if I wanted to go to a no annual fee thing, to a no annual fee setup with this, I would then grab the Fidelity Visa rewards card. It's going to keep my global entry. It's going to keep my TSA PreCheck. I may only put one charge on this card every year to keep it active, and every 5 years that charge is going to be global entry. And then from there, I could grab a card that has lounge access. What card that would be, I don't know offhand. I could keep the Sapphire Reserve. I could, but I'm paying $550 a year for lounge access. That is annoying. I have to see what a potential JetBlue card looks like, but it doesn't exist right now, so I can't say that I would have that card. So, practical me, and I'm going to get the most value that I can for no annual fee, because that's what my end game looks like. I don't want to pay crazy annual fees if I don't have to, and I can't justify them. Would be a 3-card setup of the autograph, the active cash, and the Fidelity card to get me TSA global entry and pre-check, just so that I have that covered for myself. And I would probably be fine.
I am so bored by the answer that I think I just gave myself the lobotomy from that other question to get through your answer.
Was that lobotomy enough? There's something about the lobotomy that's enough that would make you go all cash back.
Yes, that's the lobotomy I meant. Yes.
Look, I told you it was going to be boring. I'm going with, you know what? I Syracused it. That's fine.
Damn, even I threw in the platinum for Razzle Dazzle.
Just like, here's the thing. In theory, you would be fine. And that would last about 3.5 months. And then you would just be on sites like applying for random cards to like feel alive again. So that's not actually going to be your setup. You're just trying to convince yourself that you can be that boring.
Yes.
As long
Then
as we're on the same page there.
I have 2 slots I can play with, and then I'll keep getting Apple loans.
You don't get
because
you don't get to rotate. Like it's a 5-card setup and you're done. You don't get to rotate those last 2 spots.
Game. It's the end of the road.
It's fine. Anyway, as I said, I Syracuse that answer. What do you want from me? Just don't give me a toaster. Yeah. So thanks AP for that. I'm sorry I'm so boring. Is what it is. Anyway, our last question comes from Kid Kat. I've saved this for last just because of the nature of the question. So this reads, what goals do you have for the podcast and your individual channels for 2025? RJ, I'll have you answer this one first.
For my channel, just sort of getting in the rhythm of posting more. It's been a really crazy couple of months with family stuff and other things going on, so I've sort of fallen off a little bit there. I don't have like number goals or hits goals. I just want to make videos that I enjoy, and if other people enjoy and find benefit in, then that's awesome. For the podcast, just continuing to do it is always good. Momentum is a thing. So, meeting every Monday, editing on Tuesdays, putting it out Wednesday, Friday, and Monday is always good. Just sort of having more people watch and going from there. Potentially launching some options for the people who want to give us money The main show is, I think I can comfortably say the main show as it is currently will always be up and always be free. So it's just a question of other things that we do. But yeah, I super enjoy doing the show. So just growing it really, I'm gonna steal Matt's line of it's a boring answer, but it's the one I got.
Oh, you can be boring, but I can't. Okay, thanks.
I'm not boring in 95% of the things that I do, Matt. So occasionally you got to throw in a little boring versus you who can intellectualize things until everybody is like, "But Matt, you don't have the Sapphire Reserve and you don't have a JetBlue card. You're lying to yourself," which you just lied to yourself and you lied to all of us because we heard you lying to yourself.
Liar.
Matt is a liar, liar, pants on fire, which is now going to be the title up of this episode.
Don't you mean liar, liar, onesie on fire?
Yes, there we go. That's the episode title.
Jake, you actually going to launch a channel in 2025?
Yes, that's my goal of the channel is doing it, posting the video. Like I said, work meal ticket thing that allows me to do this and have credit cards that have me fund in annual fees. I want to make sure that's good. You know, kind of being on a 6-month probation where you're trying to learn the job and not get fired because they just don't like how you smell one day is kind of been like the focus.
Do you
Um,
smell?
no,
Is that a problem that you have? Because now I'm
no,
concerned.
no, you wouldn't know. We're on camera. Um, but that was kind of taking priority over things for my channel and also with the extracurriculars for Stack Your Points, social media wise, that I have not been able to do. And that's going to be, at least on my end, one of the big things for the podcast is just working on the social media and actually getting that done and seeing how that can grow our little podcast that we get to do every Monday night going into like very early Tuesday morning for pretty much all of us except for Lonnie because he's on the West Coast.
For me, for the podcast, I'd love to see us. We're at 270. I'm going to round up to 270. Oh, 273. I was going to say 275, but fine. 273. We're at 273. At the rate we're going, we're going to hit 500 relatively soon. So getting to 500 is going to be awesome. Once we get to 500, potentially, maybe seeing 1,000 by the end of next year would be amazing. First is just getting to 500. That'll be awesome. And so podcast growth, maybe we start doing some extracurriculars with the podcast for side monetization, things we got to talk about collectively, but adding more value for you guys would be great. For the channel, I passed 1,500 subscribers at the beginning of December, I want to say. So if I can get past 2,000 subscribers and then, be around 2,500, or maybe a video or two pops off next year because the Autograph Beyond is supposed to launch and the Strata Elite is supposed to launch. So, one video praising one card and another video bemoaning the other card might help with growth numbers. Who knows? But there's a bunch of cards that are supposed to launch next year that if I keep at what I'm doing, should be able to see my audience continue to grow. I would love to be able to get to a place where I am making enough on the side with the channel that I'll not feel really good. It's humbling to make what I make now, but making more would be great, just to help with some things. And getting to a point where the podcast can also be monetized would be fantastic. Multiple streams of incomes are always good, and properly using those multiple streams of income to help yourself is also good. This was less boring than the last answer, so. But no. I would love to hit 3,000 subscribers next year on the personal channel. I would love for the podcast to start flirting with 1,000 by this time next year. I think that's potentially doable on 6-month scales. So let's see what happens. But yeah, I do appreciate everyone who checks in on the podcast. I appreciate everyone who's in the Stack Your Points Discord. Everyone who took the time to send us mail or send us a question for this mailbag episode. Thank you so much for that. Kit Kat, thank you for your last question here. Tariq, any final thoughts?
I just want to say that, obviously to you and RJ and Lonnie, even though you're out on assignment, you'll catch this video. I'm glad that we all decided one day, RJ, especially you and me, in just middle of conversation, just be like, hey, it would be great. Let's just start a podcast. And then, bringing in Lonnie and Matt. And this has just been a blast. This has just been fun. And even though we drag on late into the night, and usually our Tuesday mornings are probably the worst days we have throughout the week, I wouldn't change it because of the conversations that we have and the ways that we're able to interact with the viewers, which I am so grateful for all 273 of you. I wish I could go off one by one and name it, but that would add like another hour and a half to the video. I'm kidding, y'all.
You can edit that episode.
You want me to let that be my first assignment? But no, grateful for each and every one of y'all. And thank you for tuning in every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, if you listen to the podcast on the podcast of your choice, and Monday. We thank you. We may not say it enough, but we are so grateful. And we thank you for every view, every like, every comment, every question in the Discord, everything you say something in the Discord. We do appreciate it, and it means a whole lot to us.
RJ?
No, I echo everything Tariq said. We really do appreciate it. I read every YouTube comment. I know Matt and Tariq and Lonnie read most to all of them as well. It is truly humbling to have some of the conversations and be able to talk with people about stuff that we all enjoy. On the topic of potential monetization, if you guys have things you want from us, let us know, because we're sort of spitballing ideas, but if you guys have ideas of what you would like to see, it always helps, because we would be doing the extra content for you. So if you want a particular type of thing, let us know, and it will make everybody happier than us coming up with ideas and people being like, ew, that's not fun. We don't want to pay 95 cents, random number just popped in my head, 95 cents for this content. This is the Chase Sapphire preferred of content. We don't want this. So definitely let us know. Not all ideas will be possible, but some might be. So definitely something to keep in mind. Always open to ideas. If you guys have questions, put them in there. If you have things that you want a basic on, definitely let us know. We run through things, but sometimes we don't even realize what needs to have a basic episode about it, because we're not thinking in that context. So if there's a topic you want a basics on, let us know. The more back and forth, the more community building, the better. So just stay active in the comments. Let us know. As we've said in the Discord a bunch, there are no bad questions asked in good faith. If you don't know something, if you want something explained, if we say something that does not click in your head, let us know, and we'll either re-explain it. Maybe we were wrong. We have all been slightly off or fully incorrect in some of the things we've said. Not out of malice, just talking for 3 hours can lead your brain to say some weird things. So let us know. And this community we've been building is pretty extraordinary. So we're definitely in it for next year, and I'm looking forward to it.
95-cent crap monetization right there. I'm reaching for a different show title at this point, but
no,
I
Onesie on
appreciate that,
fire.
Matt, but I've already put it in the doc that has the show notes. So I think it's actually legally required that I use that title. So
We are
I'm
legal.
sorry.
We are legally bound. Stack Your Points is legally bound for the episode to be somewhere along the lines of liar, liar, onesie on fire. Because you know what? This is what the people want. It's what the people want.
So I'll no longer be dignifying you, either of you, with eye contact right now as we close out. So with that, we appreciate everybody's views, everybody listening on the Stack Your Points podcast on the podcatcher of your choice. If you like what we do, please hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. If you like what we do in the podcast form of the episode, please give us 5 stars on the podcatcher of your choice as we continue to grow our audience. Join the Stack Your Points Discord. The link is always in the description. Feel free to join the conversation there. If you want to ask questions, that is the first place you should be asking podcast questions, in the podcast question sub channel. If you want to ask us questions on the YouTube channel, please utilize any and all comment sections. We go through them, as RJ said, and farm those. We also have a email inbox. That's stackyourpoints@gmail.com. You can definitely ask us any questions there as well. We will put them together and answer them as best we can, or wait until a mailbag episode like this. Maybe we'll do more mailbag episodes from time to time. But we appreciate your time. As always, I'm Matt from the Matt Clausen YouTube channel. RJ, where can we find you on the vast expanses of the internet?
You can find me at Do You Take Cards on YouTube. You can find me in the Stack Your Points Discord.
And Tariq?
You can find me at Reeks Rewards, definitely in 2025, Stack Your Points Discord, and whatever department store that I can get the onesie that Matt has.
I'm not telling you right now. And you can find me on the Matt Clausen YouTube channel, the Stack Your Points Discord, and everyone, please enjoy your New Year's. Have a happy and safe New Year's. We will be back next week, as always, with Lonnie back, hopefully. If not, we'll figure it out from there. But thanks as always. Talk to you guys soon.